No creature is more prevalent in the world of fiction than human beings, so let's see what it would be like if they actually existed. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Speculative Wildlife Research Center. Today we're taking a look at human beings. I think it's fair to say almost everyone watching has encountered these creatures in some form of media in the past, since those weird, hairless, chubby organisms show up on everything from books to movies to video games. So let's see what they could be like if we reimagine them through the lens of speculative biology. Please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing if you like it. And now, without further ado, let's get started. So, when we first began trying to determine how these curious organisms would be like as real living beings, this presented quite a challenge. Amphibians are superficially similar, but their bone structure made it hard to justify, and reptiles had scales that clashed with the concept. Then, my research led me to a description of them by philosopher Plato, classifying these fabled beings as featherless bipeds. Bingo! They had to be plucked birds. I wanted to go with a species closely related to parrots, given their great intelligence and rounded head, more similar to that of humans than to that of other types of bird. The loss of feathers is most likely related to thermoregulation, since their greater size, a great asset for deterring predation, would make them much better at retaining heat as well without needing their feathers. And, of course, they'd lose their ability to fly upon growing bigger and heavier, so wings had to go. However, a slight adaptation of their fleshy upper limbs would make them great for limited manipulation, especially now that their feet had lost dexterity in order to better support their weight. Sadly, this reduced ability to manipulate their environment would severely limit the reach of their technological development and civilization. Mayhaps there is some other way to try this? We've met on this channel creatures that are described as being very similar to the traditional depiction of humans, including dwarves and Santa Claus. So I figured out, why not turn this human into a huge insect, similar to what we did with those other creatures. This huge bug would have a neotenic body plan to save the energy required for metamorphosis, allowing it to develop into a much larger organism. Its body is held by 4 of its legs, giving it greater stability and a superficial appearance somewhat similar to that of human beings. And, luckily, bees have a lot of fur, or scopa, tiny hairs that help them carry pollen, making them a prime model for this organism, as a slight increase in length, density and extension very easily gives them a thermoregulating layer that resembles the hair that humans have. And yet, there is one thing I'm not super satisfied with. It's possible that the single most defining characteristic of humans is the aggressive, warlike nature they often display in movies, books and video games. And, as we've explored before, a big weakness of large insects would be a thinner, fragile exoskeleton, since otherwise they would become way too heavy as they grew in size, meaning said aggressiveness would be rather unlikely. Let's see, what else can we try? Alright, let's do this one more time. There is one more idea that has been often suggested in our comments. Humans being based on primates. I'll admit I found the idea a bit forced at first. While physically speaking they are a bit similar, the idea that primates would lose their climbing ability 4 and powerful jaws seems like quite a downgrade. So, as we were discussing this over on our Discord, we concluded these traits were most likely the result of disease, a genetic illness that would produce a highly neotenic phenotype due to reduced hormone expression. This phenotype would most clearly be expressed in a lack of 4, heavily reduced muscle mass, a bigger head, and much smaller jaws. The last of these, the jaws, would force these human-like apes to depend on a sulfur diet, especially as it became more extended among the species. The reduced muscle mass and severe loss of strength associated with the debilitating effects of an illness would account rather well for the lankier frame of most human characters, as well as the loss of their climbing ability that forced them to walk on the ground. This rather quick transition would also cause a great deal of stress to be placed on the spine, explaining the many problems associated with human bipedal posture, including back pain. Can you imagine that? Good thing we don't have spines in real life. Altogether, the huge deal of setbacks caused by this disease would no doubt force these proto-humans to become smarter in order to survive, a feature that is sometimes considered to be characteristic of these beings. And that's it for Speculative Biology look into human beings. This is, without a doubt, one of the most difficult creatures we've done on the channel so far. Despite being so prevalent in media, it seems depictions of human beings tend to vary a lot, with lots of features showing a ton of variation between one another. Almost every feature seen in them often changes shape and size, making it rather difficult to focus on any canonical appearance. That said, there were some features, like their bizarre hairless bodies, concentrations of fur on the head, and bipedal stance that made for a nice basis to work with. And, as you can see, there were lots of organisms that fit the bill, so that in the end we had a lot of fun stuff that could be done with the concept. So I hope y'all enjoyed this look at such fascinating creatures. And before we go, what better artwork can we showcase than myself drawn as if I was a human? Cool, huh? As always, here's a thank you to everyone who wanted to see this episode. And of course, big thanks to our researchers and research associates who gave us some awesome ideas to refine this episode and its concepts. Remember, you too can support us through Patreon and YouTube memberships, and you get some cool bonuses like seeing all of our creatures and videos ahead of time and helping mold them into shape. Or you can also like, subscribe, or write a comment telling me any type of creature you would like me to give the Spec Evo treatment in the show. Any of those really help the channel a lot. Thank you all for watching. Happy April Fools, and see you next time on the Speculative Wildlife Research Center. Well, that's a wrap. Good work, everyone. Now let's take this file and leave it next to the time machine. I'm sure nothing wrong can happen. Now, who wants to get some drinks?